Hi everybody, I hope you're keeping well. Believe it or not, we're now entering into the 6th week since the coronavirus began to have major impacts on our communities and the YMCA organisation. I hope you've been taking good care of yourself and taking advantage of Les Mills on demand available to you. I myself did meditation session yesterday evening, which was so great for my mental health. I found myself doing a second one immediately afterwards. I'm here with Martina. Hi, Martina.
Hello.
And Pauline.
Hello, everyone.
Fantastic. I'm just getting to go on mute and I will start. So Martina and Pauline today are going to provide our next update. I'd firstly like to highlight the new COVID-19 tracing app that has been released by the Australian government. This app has been downloaded nearly 3 million times since its release only 2 days ago. The government have stated that the goal is to have 8 million downloads to really have its intended impact on communities. And it's a really important way of continuing to monitor and reduce the spread of coronavirus in Victoria and Australia. I have downloaded it myself. It was really easy. The app uses Bluetooth on your mobile to look for other devices with COVID safe installed, allowing your device to take note of who you've been in contact with and securely logging their reference code with yours. If you or somebody you've been in contact with is diagnosed with coronavirus, the close contact information that is securely stored in your phone can be uploaded and used by health officials to quickly trace people who've been exposed to the virus. As you can imagine, that speed in which this app can work will be very, very good for our communities once we get back up and running and we are out of this current stage of social isolation. I want to assure you that all the information gathered by the app and the government have assured you is secure, and I encourage you all to download it if you've not already done so. The Victorian government have also announced it will be undertaking in-depth testing of 100,000 Victorians over the next fortnight to identify underlying community transmission. The Premier has also announced that on the 11th of May, he will be providing an update as to whether we will be lifting the stage 3 restrictions we are currently under. While other states have begun relaxing their restrictions, Victoria has not, and this is the advice we must continue to follow. In South Australia, our South Australian Aquatic and Leisure Centre has reopened for the Olympic athletes to train, the swimmers. However, there is no confirmed opening for general public. We'll be monitoring this and using it as a case study for further openings as they begin to happen in Victoria. I want to thank Adam and the team in South Australia for their efforts to make this all possible, and of course the South Australian government. The next slide shows the Australian figures for current confirmed cases of coronavirus. It shows the recovery rate as well as, sadly, those who have died and who have been gravely ill. As you can see, there's been 6,721 confirmed coronavirus, and there has sadly been 83 deaths. But we've also seen a huge recovery rate of 5,588, which means that there's around about 1,000 active cases. So the reason I wanted to provide these government updates and figures is to provide further context to the situation we are in currently, and to encourage you all to continue to follow the advice and rules of the government are providing so that we can begin to return to normality as soon as we possibly can. So, a JobKeeper update. I'd like to begin with some great news. As many of you are aware, the Youth and Community Services entity was initially identified as ineligible for JobKeeper based on the criteria provided in the initial criteria by the government. Late last week, the ATO released some updated rules, and I'm really thrilled to advise that we have assessed that the youth and community service entity is eligible to receive JobKeeper payments. Our board of directors held a special meeting on Monday morning this week to confirm that we can commence making those payments, and we have now completed those payments, as hopefully you've all received money in your bank accounts for eligible employees so far. So with that wonderful news, it means that, of course, all eligible employees who have been nominated for the JobKeeper subsidy across the Y Victoria have now been paid. So I'd like to thank you again for your support and patience, in particular employees within the Youth and Community Services entity, as I know you've been awaiting resolution to this important matter. We really worked hard and around the clock to make that happen. We're really pleased that we've been able to deliver the JobKeeper subsidy to you. We are aware that so many other organisations have found it simply too difficult to administer the payments, or it actually has been beyond their financial means. And so therefore they've not elected to participate in JobKeeper. I'm now going to hand over to Martina, who'll take you through a further update on annual leave entitlements.
Thank you, Carolyn. Last week, there were many questions around annual leave, but it was our priority to make the first JobKeeper payments in time for you. So we promised the update this week would be on the employee relations rules around the government's legislation in regards to the JobKeeper rules and leave. The government has released rules around annual leave, which state that under the JobKeeper scheme, an employer can request employees take paid annual leave while preserving at least 2 weeks worth of leave, and agree in writing that the employee may take the annual leave at half their usual pay for twice the length of time. The reason why the federal government has released these rules is to ensure that the JobKeeper wage subsidy helps organisations who have been significantly impacted by COVID-19 closures to be able to return to business once the restrictions are lifted. For the Y, this means enabling us all to have a workplace to come back to. Therefore, as per the government legislation, we will be administering this scheme and will be asking staff who have leave balances greater than 2 weeks to take paid annual leave until their leave balances sits at the 2-week mark. Staff who are requested to take annual leave will be communicated with directly by the People and Culture team in the coming fortnight via an email. While I know some of you may be disappointed with this news, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to reflect on how lucky we are in Australia to have a government that is equipped to provide us with this level of financial support. It's important to remember that many organisations will be administering this same practice and requesting staff to take leave at this time. For those staff who have already taken annual leave, I can confirm that there won't be any reversals of leave payments. If staff have taken annual leave, this leave has already been paid and reported to the ATO, and the leave loading will have been paid on top of that leave as per our staff agreement. The reason for this is because we will be asking staff to take additional leave to come down to the 2-week mark. We want to ensure that everyone is treated equally. Further, I'd like to reiterate that you cannot request a top-up for your JobKeeper payments with annual leave. We've sought external advice on this, and it is very clear. You can either take JobKeeper payments or you can take annual leave. The slide that's going to just come up now will provide you with a number of different scenarios in relation to the fortnight ending and the leave that you will be paid. It gives examples of if someone takes leave more than the $1,500 over the fortnight, those staff who are taking the $1,500, and those taking other different amounts less than the leave balances. So this will be put up on our website for you to work through, but basically the way it works is you either take your annual leave or you take the JobKeeper payment. You can't take the two at the same time. Please also remember that the good news is that while you have been stood down or continue to be stood down and are receiving the JobKeeper payments, you are still accumulating annual leave at your normal rate. Further, we may have mentioned in previous webinars that we're receiving updates made by the government as and when they are released. Since last week, the government has prospectively changed the eligibility criteria for people aged 16 and 17 years. The criteria now states that only those who are financially independent will continue to receive the JobKeeper payment. We will be honouring the first two payments that have already been made to staff of 16 and 17 years. However, going forward, we will be contacting the 55 staff affected by this rule, and if they are eligible, we will have to ask them to re-nominate. Please note that this is only the staff that we will contact directly, and there isn't anything that you will need to do if you fall into this category at this time. And now I'd like to hand over to Pauline for a bit of an update on payroll.
Thanks, Martina. Hello, everyone. As Carolyn stated, last night the payroll team have successfully processed 2 pay runs, including the JobKeeper back pay for fortnight ending the 12th of April. Your pays will be now showing in your bank yesterday and today, depending on your nominated bank's processing time. If you do have any payroll queries or questions, I do encourage you all to view your pay slips before contacting the payroll team. To do this, you need to log into ADP using your user ID, your YMCA client ID, and your password. If you do not know how to do this or have this information, the instructions have now been uploaded to our emergency website to help you. So please have a look there and follow these instructions. I will now move into a quick update on superannuation. We have received a few questions regarding superannuation when receiving the JobKeeper payment. To clarify this for everyone, there is no superannuation guarantee contribution payable on the JobKeeper wage subsidy. So for example, if you are stood down and not working and receiving a JobKeeper payment of $1,500 before tax, there is no superannuation paid on that $1,500. If you're on reduced hours and earning a pre-tax amount of $1,000 and you are eligible and have nominated for JobKeeper, you will be topped up with the pre-tax $500 to bring your total earnings to $1,500. However, you will only receive the superannuation guarantee on the $1,000 that you were paid for the hours you are working. I would now like to hand back to Carolyn, who will provide an update on how we move forward.
Thanks, Pauline, and thanks very much, Martina. As we've now successfully paid out our first 2 JobKeeper payments, the conversation is now shifting to how we can begin standing staff back up. Rest assured, if you've nominated for JobKeeper, the employee relations rules are that we need to give you 3 days notice in writing via an email for you to come back to work. The executive leadership team are now working on how we'll bring staff back to work, and we'll be working with your managers first and foremost to ensure you have all the information you need. In the next week's seminar, we're going to focus on the returning to work process. Although we may be able to discuss how we can bring people back, we most likely will not have a time frame yet. The government will be making significant announcements on the 11th of May regarding lifting of the stage 3 restrictions. So we will await this announcement before we can make further decisions on returning to work. So before we move into our Q&A session, I'd like to remind you, as always, that you are welcome to access our employee assistance program by LifeWorks at any time. They are a 24/7 service and can be accessed over the phone and online. Okay, so now I'm going to move into some questions. So first one, I'd just like to say a big thank you to all of the team that worked so hard to get the JobKeeper payment through this week. The money is greatly appreciated for me and my family, and I'm sure many others. Thanks again. Well, there's a number here of people, and that's fantastic. There's a number of people that it does seem like that perhaps they haven't received the payment. Pauline, how do they let payroll know, and what do they need to do?
Thanks, Carolyn. Yes, if you've looked in your bank account today and you haven't been paid, it's probably time, and you believe you should have been paid because you were eligible and nominated to receive JobKeeper. It's probably time to contact the payroll team with a query around your pay. You can choose to contact the payroll team directly, or you could go through the P&C help desk.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Pauline. This was interesting. It says this may be a tough question to answer. However, what could happen if the ATO do not approve the Y as an eligible business for JobKeeper? Martina, do you want to take that one?
Oh, that won't happen. We're very much hopeful that it won't happen. I think the bottom line is with this is that based on all of the criteria that the government has put forward, we will be eligible for JobKeeper. The only issues that we would have would be that each fortnight we do need to report back on all of our eligible staff. And so therefore, if anything changes in your circumstances, please let us know. But we don't think that we're going to have a problem with any of that.
Okay, thanks, Martina. We will be waiting for the May the 14th when we get paid back for it, though, and when we see that money going in the bank, I'm going to say there might be a few high fives there. So yes, I just wanted to ask about the tax on JobKeeper. It seems like the tax, and this is for Pauline, taken out was very high.
Oh, thanks, Carolyn. The tax that was taken out would have been processed by the payroll team according to your normal tax rates that apply to your salary and wages. I think, again, if you have a query on your tax, I would encourage you, now that you've been paid, to contact the payroll team, and they'll be able to work with you directly on your individual query.
Yeah, I think we have to thank you so much. So everybody listened to the fact that we needed to just allow the payroll team to get their job done over the weekend. But it is back to business as usual. You can contact the payroll team now. They're a bit tired, I'm going to say, and I just spoke to Trudy, who runs the team, and you know, of course, they always appreciate a bit of moral support, but they are ready to answer all your questions now. Okay, next question. Given that the JobKeeper has an end date of September, does that mean our fortnightly payments will be topped up to $1,500 before tax? This is for Martina, all the way through to September.
Yes, if the government doesn't change the scheme beforehand. There is a good chance, if you looked at the slide that will go up on the website earlier, that Carol was showing how the doubling days are getting more and more, and that we have all been told that the government will make some significant announcements on the 11th of May. It may be that before that period of time, we may be able to open some of our facilities again. So if things remain the way they are now, then yes, JobKeeper will go through to the end of September. But if not, you will probably, as always, find out at the same time we do. And then we will spend the next 24 hours figuring out as much as we can to provide you with the information.
Thanks, Martina. Does the forced leave include long service leave, Martina?
No, the legislation is very specific around it being about the annual leave requirements. However, again, if some people find that they are in that situation where they would like to take long service leave so that they get the full salary that they're used to getting, of course, we can accommodate them for that.
Okay, thank you. This is another one for Martina. Hi team, if my contract expires before the reopening of centres, does this mean that from that point onwards, I won't be eligible for JobKeeper?
That is correct. You're only eligible for JobKeeper for the period of your contract. And so at that point in time, you would become eligible for JobSeeker. So if your contract is coming to an end, even if you think that there's a chance that it may be extended, I would still advise you to put in an application for JobSeeker, because there is a bit of a lead time on that as well. So if you know you've got a contract end date, put in an application for JobSeeker, you can always withdraw it later.
Okay. Now, Martina, there is a few questions about long service leave, so I'll ask it in one different way so that you can answer it again. If we don't have any annual leave, but do have long service leave, do we need to take that leave as well?
Okay, you don't need to take your long service leave. However, if you would like to take long service leave at this time, some of the general rules around it have been relaxed in terms of your ability to apply for it and take it straight away. But no, you are not going to be asked to take your long service leave. That will be at your decision.
Okay. I think this is going to be a question for next week, so I'm going to read it out. If we don't have 2 weeks of annual leave currently and our role allows us to work from home, when can we get back to work? Martina.
I would say that is absolutely a question for next week. Just as we've said on previous webinars, we are looking at everything we can do with our staff to help keep people engaged and connected, and we will be looking at training and development opportunities. But as everyone's aware, JobKeeper was such a huge thing for us to administer. We just wanted to make sure we got that right for everyone. Now that we've got that in place, we'll start moving on to the next phases.
Okay, fantastic. This one's for Pauline. Are we still getting pay slips? I didn't receive it this week. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. Yes, you most certainly should have seen your pay slips. Again, if you're having trouble and you've logged on and it's not there, I would encourage you to call the payroll team, and they might be able to help you or resend your pay slip. Okay,
thanks, Pauline. What if we don't currently have 2 weeks of annual leave, but we end up having that much leave in a few weeks? Will we be made to take annual leave?
Yes. We are going to go through this period and say that we want everyone to come out of the COVID situation with 2 weeks leave balance. So if we've done an estimate that in May that you will have 3 weeks, for example, but you haven't got 3 weeks yet or whatever, we'll be looking at that on a case-by-case basis. But generally speaking, yes, everyone will be asked to be at 2 weeks at the end.
Okay, this one's for Pauline. Fortnight, 30th of March to 12th of April, I was on reduced hours. Then I was stood down on the 9th of April. Does that mean I get back paid? If so, when? As I didn't receive it.
Okay, good one. So the short answer is you should be paid for your reduced hours and your JobKeeper for fortnight ending the 12th of April. So you'll get some JobKeeper and some reduced hours. And then if you were stood down from the 9th of April, from the 12th of April to the 26th of April, you should have received a full JobKeeper payment of $1,500 before tax. If that hasn't happened, again, I just encourage you to call the payroll team and they will help you sort out your individual query.
So, Pauline, will they miss out on the April payment?
Yes, so that's a really good question, Carolyn. Martina did refer to some updated rules being put on the ATO website, and on Monday the ATO have allowed us to be able to contact staff who may have missed out on nominating in time for the 2 fortnights we've just paid. And yes, we will be making back pays to those staff next Friday, the 8th of May.
Okay. Oh, look, I think there's a practicality here that the ATO have recognised in the last week, is that sort of thing might just have slipped through and they don't want to disadvantage you. So please immediately get in touch with the payroll department and that will be sorted out for you. Okay, so for those still working reduced hours, what impact does leave balance have on their payments, Martina?
Well, it doesn't have any impact on your payments during the weeks you're actually working. So if you're working reduced hours, you will get paid for those hours, and if those hours are less than the $1,500 a fortnight, we will top you up to that. When it comes to the annual leave component, if you have more than 2 weeks annual leave, we'll be contacting you directly and asking you to take a period of leave to bring you down to 2 weeks. In that period of time, you'll get whatever your full weekly earnings would have been. So if you usually get paid a full-time wage, you would get full-time. If you usually work 20 hours a week, you would get 20 hours for that week. So it would just be like when you're on JobKeeper and reduced hours, you get paid for the hours worked and then topped up to the JobKeeper, or for all of your hours worked if it's over 1,500. And while you're on annual leave, you'll just be paid as you normally would on annual leave.
Thanks, Martina. Will the annual leave rule apply to those currently working, Martina?
Yes, it will. It will apply to every single person in the organisation. Everyone, doesn't matter whether you're working, stood down or on reduced hours, we're going to be applying this across all of our employees.
Yeah, and I think, look, honestly, the people who are working probably need a bit of a break as well. So we are absolutely going to be looking at how we can do that over this time. And this is really about, as I said last week, we don't want to disadvantage anyone, and we're going to try our hardest not to do that. Whether you're working or not working, we want to apply this rule very consistently. Oh, this one's nice. A big thank you to you all. Thank you for that, Nancy. Last question, I think. What do we do, Pauline, if the tax taken was incorrect?
Yes, thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, I think on an individual basis, you need to contact the payroll team. And I might just make sure we put those details up on our emergency website, but it's payroll.vic@ymca.org.au. And we'll put the phone number up there, 9403 5040, so that then you can talk to the payroll team directly about your individual concerns, and they are the best experts to help you out.
Okay, fantastic. Could you just say that again though, Pauline? Like, just so people might just be getting their pens out.
Okay, yes, we'll definitely go through that again. So there's an email address for the payroll team and a phone number. The email address is payroll.vic@ymca.org.au, and the phone number is 9403 5040. We will put both up on the website after this webinar, so that if you haven't had time to write them down, you can find them there.
Fantastic, Pauline. Thank you so much. And thank you, Martina, as always. I think we're trying to be as clear as we can about what's going on. As you can see, we're trying to make sure that absolutely everyone's paid, and the payroll department really want to understand if anyone hasn't been paid. I think they feel really, in terms of employees that have been nominated as eligible. So we will be running through all of that and any of your questions. Finally, I'd just like to state again how very lucky we are to have a government that has acted so quickly. And I don't know whether you've been reading the newspaper, but we've been lauded across the world for our social distancing practices and these measures that we have taken for the health of all Australians, for you, for your families. And we are comparing those against other countries like Europe, the US and the UK, and you can see really clearly these efforts are working. I think we're incredibly lucky also that our government has been able to implement an economic policy like JobKeeper and JobSeeker, which enables us to assist so many people in our community. The purpose of JobKeeper was to take the pressure off Centrelink, and it's really worked. There's now only been a 3.5% increase in job seeker applicants. And if you go to Centrelink now, you can get processed. So that was the whole purpose of the JobKeeper, in addition to keeping employees close to their employers, which we're trying to do as best we can. Thanks to the support of our government, businesses, including the Y, can now be in a position where we hopefully can not just survive, but thrive as we reopen and reimagine our business post-COVID. And I'm so pleased that when we do open the doors, we can all have jobs to return to and continue to support the communities that we serve. Finally, as we've mentioned, next week, we're going to bring you further updates on the return to work process. But again, we do ask for your patience as we work through this new territory and ensure we remain consistent with the government advice. And we want to make sure that we bring people on very, very well, and that we continue the processes and continue to support you all the way through. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.